So we're doing Sherlock Holmes 1 and 2 tonight at 9:51 when I'm recording this. And Sherlock Holmes is a special movie to me. I think I watched this for the first time when I was in like 6th grade probably or 7th grade. And it definitely was like a favorite movie for me. And I would say it's still like, I mean, it's not like in a top 50 or anything, but like in terms of my like for it, I really do like this film. And if you don't know, it's made by Guy Ritchie, who's really famous for doing like really stylized films. So what we're gonna do is like do a whole plot review by using the synopsis on IMDb, like I usually do. But before then, I will say, past like couple weeks have been not so great. My dog died, and it was a whole, you know, unhappy situation, and I made a video about it, so uh, I would encourage you to go watch it. So it's like it's called like Rambo. Well, you know what it's called. I posted it right before this video. It's called like Rambo 2013 to 2025, and I think it's a good video. Um, so yeah, let's review this film, Sherlock Holmes. So the first one is considered the better film. It has a higher critical rating, but the audience scores are about the same, at least on IMDb. So the plot is this. So in 1890, a detective named Sherlock Holmes, who is an eccentric detective for hire, and his partner, Dr. John Watson, Holmes's close friend, who's also a surgeon and a veteran of the Second Afghan War, prevent the ritualistic murder of a woman by Lord Henry Blackwood. Blackwood is an aristocratic serial killer dabbling in the occult to compel others to do his bidding. Blackwood has killed 5 other women in a similar manner. So, yeah, this film has a really good opening. It's like they are going down into like, I think it's like under a church or something like that. They're like in the gallows. Is that the right word? Maybe not. What does gallows mean? Gallows. No. Okay. They're in like the basement of some big building, and it's very like crummy down there, and these men are performing this ritual, and the woman is like possessed. And it's a really cool scene. And then like in the last moment, uh, before Holmes grabs her hand, she's like going to stab herself with a knife. So it's a very good opening scene, and it sets up a lot of things, mainly like the intelligence and like methods of Sherlock Holmes with the incredible deduction. Like there's this one scene, or this one part of the scene that I really like, where I think Watson goes up to like handcuff Lord Blackwood, and like Holmes like pushes him back or something like that, and then the camera moves, and you can see that Blackwood has like a very thin piece of glass that it's like meant to like stab people when they get too close. So that sets up this whole thing where Blackwood seems to have these tricks, but he also seems to have real power. And the power is confirmed when at his hanging, he's killed. They take his pulse. Watson takes his pulse, who's a doctor. He's dead. And then a few days later, he rises from the dead. And then that's the whole point of the movie, catching him again and getting rid of him for good. And it's sort of like solving this puzzle where he does seem to be magical, but it it contrasts with Sherlock Holmes' ultra logic, and basically he thinks there's like nothing he can't solve with his brain. But it looks to be that, if a man can survive not having a pulse, then perhaps science and logic do not apply. So that's the, and I do really like this. I love the mystery of it. I think it was pretty damn good and pretty well executed. I think the main problem with this film is, I would say, the relationship with Irene Adler is a little bit rocky. Like, I think it could be a little bit more developed, and I don't know if the actress was really the perfect one. I think both Sherlock Holmes 1 and 2, the main female leads are both not very good, but Irene is better in this film. She's more better in the second film, but we'll get to that. Uh, so, yeah, at this point, this is shortly before Blackwood is resurrected. Basically, Holmes is visited by Irene Adler, who's basically a femme fatale like figure who outwitted Holmes twice. So basically, he has a crush on her and likes her and respects her because she outsmarted him. And basically, she wants him to do a job for him, and basically she says, like, we want you to find a missing man named Luke Redderin. And after her departure, Holmes follows her as she meets with her secret employer, um, only learns that the man is a professor and that he intimidates Adler. So this synopsis doesn't really do it justice. There's this whole, like, very Sherlock Holmesy scene where, Holmes puts on a bunch of disguises and blends in with the crowd and, like, gets really close to her when they're in the carriage together and overhears their conversation, basically. And this is when the Professor Moriarty is introduced, but his face is all black. You can't see him, and it's actually done really well. I actually think the villain of Moriarty is actually a really great villain. And he's not really in this film beyond that of, like, being a shadow, both, like, in terms of the visual, where Holmes can't see him in that carriage, and a shadow over Irene, who's, like, intimidated by him and is working for him. And basically, yeah, so that was that scene, and like I said, it doesn't really do it justice in the synopsis, but at this point, Holmes and Watson are informed that, like, Blackwood has been seen, like, rising from his own tomb, and they basically go to his tomb, uh, and basically the film is like this. It's a bunch of little seeds planted throughout the movie about, like, possible things that are going on, and it's only revealed at the end. So Holmes inexplicably grabs a piece of the stone from the grave and licks it, and you don't know why, but he does, and it's revealed at the end when he, like, does his, I would call it, like, a punchline. Like, he explains how he figured out the mystery in a very Guy Ritchie like way. It's very stylish and epic and all that. And yeah, so at this point, the guy that Adler wanted him to find, Luke Redderin, is actually buried in the tomb of Blackwood. So he did seem to have rose from the dead, and they killed someone. And they basically track his address via articles recovered from his person and discover experiments merging science with magic. And the film, like, shows a bunch of his little things, like he's experimenting on frogs, he's, like, boiling frogs, all this weird stuff. There's, like, a honey mixture he's making, so he's doing a bunch of, like, chemistry or whatever. It's AP chemistry all over again. After they survive a battle with Blackwood's men at the lab, when they try to torch it, Holmes and Watson are arrested by police. Watson is bailed out by Mary. Mary is, like, in a way, she's kind of not a villain, but she's like a nemesis to Holmes, because Holmes, like, likes Watson a lot and he's his partner, and Holmes wants to, like, marry this woman and stop doing the investigating because it's dangerous. and Holmes is like kind of a little not hostile, but he has banter with her, let's say. But I actually like this female character is better. I know I said there's no like main female character that I would say is very good in these movies, but I would say the character of Mary is actually pretty good. I would say Irene is better in the second movie, like I said. Um, and Holmes is taken to the Temple of Four Orders. They bail him out, a secret magical fraternity with considerable political influence. So basically, it's like this secret society, and basically at this time, Holmes deduces that the leader is the father of Blackwood. Like I think Blackwood's supposed to be his bastard son or something, and yeah, one of the men at this meeting turns out to be like Blackwood's right hand man. Man, this is making the movie sound really boring. I'm sorry. It's much better when you watch it. I'm just like enumerating all the things. That's terrible. Maybe I shouldn't do this like this. So I'm gonna shorten this a lot. So basically, what happens is um, there's some murders at the secret society, and there's this great scene where one of the members who stands up to Blackwood, who has since risen from the dead, tries to take over the secret society of powerful men, and he pulls out his gun and pulls the trigger at Blackwood, and then he like bursts into flames, and it's a really cool scene. And he like jumps out the window and dies. I really like this scene, and uh, there's a scene where a factory blows up that's very cool too. What else? What else? What else? At this point, there's a scene in Parliament where Blackwood basically tries to coup the United Kingdom, and he basically lays out his reasons for doing this. It's like very imperialistic, nationalistic. It's kind of irrelevant though, but he basically says like when the clock strikes 12, all those who are against me in this room, the House of Lords, will be killed. And underneath Parliament, there's a fight between Holmes, Irene, all this, where basically Blackwood set up a machine and a gas machine that carries gas up to Parliament, and he disarms it in time. Blackwood is humiliated, and at this point, you know that Blackwood relies on tricks. He's not really a, a magical man, like a dark conjurer or whatever. And Blackwood flees. Holmes chases after him, and he dies in a pretty epic way. He gets hung from the chains of the under construction Tower of London, and as he's being like hung, or he's like kind of struggling in the chains before he gets hung, and Holmes basically, this is where the punchline is, he goes through the whole scheme and says like, this is how you did this, this is how you did that. The tombstone he licked because he deduced that it was put together with the ancient adhesive of honey and milk. His father that he killed in the bathtub was paralyzed by a chemical agent, a mix of copper and water, and then he drowned in the tub. Standish was killed by a flammable liquid compound that was poured on him in what looked like rain. So it basically goes through like how Blackwood does his magic, and it's all science and tricks and illusions. And then he plummets off the bridge and falls into an entangled noose of chains, the chains wrapping around his neck and hanging him. Adler's on the bridge with him, and Adler finally explains to Holmes like that her employer is Professor James Moriarty, and she warns that Moriarty is not to be underestimated. At this point, Watson is moving out of 221B. Fun fact, when I was in London, I actually passed by this house. It's on Baker Street. It's right next to Madame Tussauds, if you know what Madame Tussauds is. It's like a wax museum. I actually posted a video about it. It's a really cool wax museum. Got lots of Star Wars stuff there. But I passed by the apartment in London. And the police report to him and Holmes that a dead officer was found near Blackwood's device, and Moriarty basically just used the confrontation between Adler and Blackwood as a diversion to take a key component from the machine, based on the infant's science of radio from the machine. So basically, Moriarty takes the radio component of this machine that Blackwood was using to telegraph, basically turning it on. And basically, the film ends with that cliffhanger that this is Holmes's new adversary, and it's a really good ending. So yeah, I don't know what I would give this film. It's definitely an 8.5. It might be like up to an 8.7 or something like that. Maybe an 8.7, I would say. It's definitely possible. I really like the movie. I would say like the second one's probably like an 8.8 if this is an 8.7. So yeah, I give it like very good, really solid film. And you know, another thing I should say about this film that's good, like, obviously it isn't a top tier directed film, for sure. Like, no one could say that, but it does, like, competently make a London from the 1890s. And yes, there is use of CGI that isn't always 100% good, but it is good. And it is very, like, stylish, and there's one scene I really want to talk about here. I've been playing it on the screen, and I recommend you watch this scene. I will put it in the description. That's how much I like it. I actually think this film has like one perfect, great scene, like a scene that would be like in my top 100 scenes. It's the famous discombobulate and boxing scene, not just that part of it, but Guy Ritchie's like obsessed with amateur boxing. I think in all his movies there's amateur boxing scenes. So this movie's no different. And I like the detail that Holmes is like an amateur boxer in his free time. It's just fascinating that like someone so mental and cerebral would like do something so physical like boxing. But it works, and it's this amazingly directed scene with the music and like the action and the slow motion where he details out all the moves and then goes into real time. He executes it. It's like a punchline, like a joke. Build up and then pay off. And then it's also kind of like Mortal Kombat almost. But yeah, I really love that scene, and I recommend you watch it in the description. I'm going to put it. Just watch the movie again. This was one of the last movies with the big man, you know. So this was a pretty special movie. And yeah, Simon Kinberg is one of the writers. That name is so familiar. X-Men, maybe that's where it's from. Oh, Logan, solid movies. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna do a video on this, but I'm not really in the mood. I saw Fantastic Four. It was like really overrated. Like, it's like a very average movie that's teetering on bad. It kind of reminded me of the pace of Rise of Skywalker, where it's just like a bunch of things are happening. It's like, oh, we gotta do this and we gotta do this, and like all the characters are just endlessly giving exposition dialogue, like, we need to do this and this is what this means. You know, it was like that. And then the action was like really average. The Sue Storm was very unlikable. And then like the ending scene is pretty damn dumb. It's like it relies on the stupidity of the villain, so that's always not good. It's like too stupid. And then basically the Sue Storm character, basically it's like Galactus has her baby, and this is where a mother stands up for her child, and she's like destroying the giant, and she's doing whatever it takes. Um, and this scene would have worked if she died at the end, but then she was resurrected, which was no, it would have worked if she died because then there would have been some consequences to like expending all her strength. But then the thing I thought of with this movie is like that reminded me of the two lightsabers scene from my favorite movie, Rise of Skywalker. It's like, oh, they couldn't beat Galactus. Um, just switch Galactus with the Emperor. The whole movie they couldn't beat Galactus. But then, oh, all of a sudden she's just marching towards Galactus using all her power, and it reminded me of when Rey said, I am all the Jedi, grabs her second lightsaber, destroys the Emperor. Oh, you thought the Emperor was strong? All that we were missing was a second lightsaber. God. I mean, what idiots for not bringing a second lightsaber in all the other films. But that just reminded me of it. But then I thought it was like kind of redeemed when she quote unquote died, but then she got resurrected, and I was like, nah. You should have killed her, and then she would have had like an actual arc where she like died for her son, and then her son could take her place as one of the Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? That just would have been so much more poignant. Another person that was unlikable, Pedro Pascal. He was not likable in this role. He is likable in other roles, just not this one. He just was like really boring. The other two guys, Johnny and the thing. Sorry, they were pretty likable. I enjoyed them. I thought Johnny was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, Pedro and Sue Storm, not very good. I was gonna say one other thing, but what was it? Yeah, I don't know. Sorry I took so much time on Fantastic Four and a Sherlock Holmes review, but consider it like a mini review. Okay, now we get on to the second one, which, like I said, I actually liked better. The audience score is about the same, at least on IMDb. But the critic score is like significantly less. I think the critic score is like 60 or something, but number one is like 75. Let me pull it up. I don't have it here. Where is the movie? What the hell? Oh, here you go. Right there. So, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. So, this movie, in my opinion, is better. And the reason I would say it's better is like I would say the plot is more plotty. See, all these years of doing movie reviews, and that's the best I can come up with. What I mean by that is like it just is like more of a story, like with actual like concrete plans and plots rather than just like, I'm not criticizing the first movie, but it's more about discovering the tricks of a fake Dark Lord, you know, which I like. I thought it was really cool to like see how someone could trick people into thinking they had like demonic power. I think that's an awesome plot for a movie. But this one is more like intellectual and I would say more interesting. So basically, the film starts out like this. Sherlock Holmes is investigating seemingly unrelated series of murders of prominent business tycoons around the world, believing them to be all connected to Professor James Moriarty, played by Jared Harris, who, okay, before we get into the movie, okay, it says a criminal mastermind who is just as smart as Holmes. Yeah, that's a given. I'll talk about that too, but let's talk about Jared Harris. I'm pretty sure I did a Chernobyl review, and if you haven't seen Chernobyl, go watch Chernobyl. And if you haven't seen my review, go watch my review. Given that I did make one, I don't. Oh, I may have made it on my radio show. That's a possibility. So if you want to go check my radio show, it's Cineshow, CINESHOW, KUCI. Just put that in on search and you should find me. Uh, I got like 11 subscribers. It's a great number. But yeah, I think I did it on that. Maybe I did it on my channel. I don't really remember. It all becomes a blur at some point. These, like, when I pump out these videos. And yeah, so I always loved this actor. I think this actor is like fantastic and not in enough stuff, but he is like in a lot of good stuff. He's absolutely amazing. He's like the most enigmatic, meaning like kind of mysterious, but like also like he's got this great, unique, and like kind of raspy but strong voice. He's got like really amazing villain qualities, but also in Chernobyl, he's plays like the most amazing hero that is so selfless and just like really a beautiful person in every way. But here he's really plays a very good villain. And let's continue with the plot. So Irene Adler is still working for Moriarty, and Holmes follows her and stops an attempted assassination attempt and defuses a bomb intended to eliminate a doctor whose services were no longer required by Moriarty. So this is basically very Sherlock Holmes. It's a lot of deception action. It's very fun. It's very quick and entertaining. Lots of good music. Love it. It's really amazing. Then the doctor escapes, and Holmes goes to like meet with him again, and he's been shot in the neck with like a blow dart. And this doctor, shortly after he figures this out, was at the forefront of a medical innovation. So, yeah, this is a connected assassination to Moriarty again, because Irene delivered the bomb. You know what I would say about these films that are so good? And Guy Ritchie, I think he like reaches his real artistic peak in this film, because definitely Lock, Stock I thought was really flawed, and then Snatch was like a good movie. I don't really remember it that much. It's not the most memorable plot, but like I remember it was a good movie. But I feel like he really gets into his groove in this film, where the guy can't make a scene that's boring, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. He's so unique and sort of out of control, but in a good way. And yeah, so after Moriarty arranges for another assassination, he poisons Irene Adler. And this is this is what I was saying. Like, I felt like she was better in this film because I feel like we felt Holmes's attachment to her more when she was killed. And we saw his reaction in later scenes where he has her handkerchief and he kisses it and then throws it into the water when they're going to France via like a ferry. And I thought it was a good scene, and it sort of humanizes Holmes because he's this, very smart, at times inhuman character that sort of doesn't empathize with other people and is only about the mission. But you see that he does have a heart here. So meanwhile, Holmes takes Dr. Watson out with his brother Mycroft. This is another very good scene. It's at this kind of casino place in London. And then Holmes saves another victim, a fortune-telling gypsy named Sim. This is the other female character I was talking about that I feel wasn't great. She was kind of just there, and I didn't really like the actor very much. Let's see, what else is she in? Her name is Noomi Rapace. Oh my god, she looks transgender now. She is in. She was in Prometheus. I never saw that. Alien Covenant. Never saw that. I guess she's in a few big movies, so. Including Sherlock Holmes. Alright, so. Sim's name was on the letter that the doctor killed by Moriarty gave to Irene, which Holmes stole from Irene before she was killed. The letter talks about Sim's brother, Renee, fulfilling some purpose. Holmes wants to know what Renee is doing for Moriarty. Basically, she's estranged from her brother. She hasn't seen him in a long time, but she might know how to get to him. Mycroft, who is linked to the British Foreign Office, tells Holmes that tensions are brewing between nations and they've reached a boiling point between France and Germany as each accuses the other of killing their businessmen. Mycroft tells of a peace summit in Switzerland to resolve all international issues between estranged nations. So the synopsis didn't really talk about this, but the film opens with an assassination attempt in Strasbourg, which, if you don't know, it was part of the German Empire. It was a part of, we learned this in school, but I don't blame you if you don't remember. So there was a part of formerly France. It was called Alsace-Lorraine, and Otto von Bismarck, in the 1871 war with France, took this part and declared the German Empire, unified Germany. The last place they took was Alsace-Lorraine, which is basically, I believe it was probably like 60 to 70% German at the time, and basically it was a contested area. So basically Germany thinks that France is conducting like anarchist terrorism in their province. And just as a side note, obviously after World War I, it was given back to France. Then Hitler took it back. And then after World War II, it was given back to France, and it remains part of France. And like a lot of like weird things have happened. Like a lot of German people have changed their names to be like French, but they're probably mostly ethnically German, or maybe it's like 50-50 now. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. So yeah, that was a bit of a sidetrack. So at this point, this is kind of like shaping up to be like a World War I alternate history movie at this point. And that's basically what this is, but you don't really need to know anything about World War I to get the story. I'm just filling in some gaps for you. And at this point, Watson is getting married to his wife, Mary. And this is another great scene, but I don't want to explain it. Just go watch the movie. So at Watson's wedding, Holmes is given a message from Moriarty that he wants a meeting. Holmes meets at basically, I think it's Oxford, or no, Cambridge, I think, where Moriarty is a professor of mathematics, I believe. And this is basically the first time they meet face to face, and they're both they play well together. I'm just, like, I'm smiling thinking about it because it is like a really compelling villain-hero dynamic. And basically at this point, Holmes tells Moriarty, like, wants to make a deal with him. And he wants to say, like, Watson is out of the game. Holmes asks Moriarty to leave Watson out of it as he's married and no longer part of the team, but Moriarty refuses. This is all very well written in the actual movie. Very good dialogue. And basically at this point, Holmes knows that his friend is going to be targeted, so he's going to have to save him. Also, this scene is done like in a room with a chessboard, and this sets up the whole idea that they're playing chess together over the course of this movie, and whoever can out outwit the other one, outplay the other one is going to win. So basically, Holmes stows away on the train where Watson and his wife Mary are going on their honeymoon. And this is a really good scene. It's all very Sherlock Holmesy. It's like Holmes is not just fighting the people, he's planted a bunch of traps. He's put a lipstick thing in the guy's shotgun, so when he shoots at them, it blows up in his face. He's basically posing as a woman, which is pretty funny. And it's a really good scene. And out of nowhere, Holmes throws Mary off the train and into a river, and Watson goes crazy thinking that he just killed his wife. But like Holmes is like, no, I threw her into a river. She's with my brother. It's all good. At this point, they escape. The train scene's very good. They trace Sim to France. Sim is that gypsy, remember? And there's a scene in the gypsy camp where they're all crazy and gypsy-like. So I think that there's a gypsy character named Claude that tells Holmes that Renee was sent on a mission for a rich British benefactor who now directs every movement of a revolutionary group these gypsies were a part of. Sim and her brother. And basically, Cloud's family has been kidnapped by Moriarty, and Moriarty is using that as leverage for the revolutionaries to do as he commands. Holmes concludes that all the recent bombings were conducted by Moriarty via Cloud, this revolutionary. Cloud reveals he has planted another bomb, but his debt is paid, and he kills himself, guaranteeing his family's safety. And then this is a really good scene. This is a really excellent scene. There's a scene where Holmes deduces from the work of Cloud that he is working on bombing the opera. So they rush over, and in the background of them rushing over is the opera called, I think it's Don Giovanni. It's like one of my favorite classical pieces. It's like probably in the Amadeus, I believe, but it's just a really amazing, haunting opera. I think it may be about demons, actually. And they go there, and Holmes goes into the stand where Don Giovanni is standing, giving his opera, and through the text that says Imperator, which means emperor, he sees a little chess piece. And from the box, Moriarty is looking at him with his binoculars, and it's a very amazing scene because basically Moriarty at this point has planted false information to get Holmes to go to the wrong place. So it's kind of like chess again. It's deception, and it's cloak and dagger, really. It's not like a great sword. So yeah, that was that. And the real target was a hotel. Moriarty blew it up. A bunch of business people were killed. But there was a shot in the explosion, and they trace it back to a roof, and they find out that who the assassin was, and then they go to this arms factory owned by Moriarty, and basically Moriarty reveals... Oh, sorry, hold on. Okay, yeah. So, in the factory, another great scene. Holmes gets captured, and Moriarty reveals he owns shares in companies in cotton, gun making, and other goods, and he's basically been buying up secretly companies and assassinating business leaders, And basically he wants to create a world war to stimulate demand, so he gets like super rich. And this scene's really good. It's I would call it the Die Forel scene. If you don't know what Die Forel is, I recommend you search up the song. It's called The Trout. It's a really nice song by Schubert, and it's about a fisherman. And it has another significance. If you listen to your washing machine, likely, I think it's like Samsung washers, um, you'll notice it is that song. You know, the da 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 na 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 na. That's the song. And Moriarty at this point is torturing Holmes and saying, who is the fisherman and who is the trout? And he sticks a fish hook, or not a fish hook, but a hook through his shoulder and is like pushing him around and all this. But last minute he's saved by by Watson, who collapses a lighthouse on the building. And basically the last target is the peace summit in Switzerland. Holmes contacts Mycroft to cancel the summit, but Mycroft says that world leaders can't withdraw at this late stage from a peace conference, even under sensitive circumstances, but they've doubled security. Holmes asks Mycroft to arrest Moriarty, but Moriarty has positioned himself as a government consultant for the peace process, being one of the best minds in Britain and a personal friend of the Prime Minister's, which was set up earlier in the film. Holmes deduces that Moriarty will not detonate a bomb at the summit, as that would simply unite them. He will use Renee to carry out an assassination of a specific leader at close range. At the summit, With Mycroft, Holmes deduces that a set of twins that were early shown working for Moriarty are not actually twins, and was an experiment to give a man the face of another. Realizing that Renee has been made to look like someone else, like one of the country ambassadors, and will act on Moriarty's behalf, basically starting a war. Watson and Sim find out which guest he is, while Holmes invites Moriarty to a game of chess over a waterfall. And this is a really good scene. It's the metaphorical chess game meeting a literal chess game. And Watson and Sim successfully stop Renee, who's with another man's face, but he's killed by that blow dart again by Moriarty's henchman, the sniper guy. Meanwhile, Holmes reveals to Moriarty that in Germany he stole an account book tracing all of Moriarty's assets, the Red Book, which had been built up through the movie, and at this point, the punchline, Holmes reveals how he managed to get close enough to him to steal it from his waist jacket pocket. It was actually when Moriarty got really close to Holmes, when he was on his back with the hook in him. He switched out the books with a fake, and basically they've taken it back to London, where his assets are being seized. Holmes and Moriarty mentally plan a battle, and both realize that Holmes will lose. And this is a very good scene where it kind of breaks the fourth wall. They're fighting mentally. And at this point, Holmes realizes he can't beat him physically, so he grabs his neck and kicks himself off into the waterfall. Watson sees this. And at this point, we reveal Watson in his home, like typing about Sherlock, and he says he was like the finest friend I ever knew. The end. But then he gets a package delivery of a breathing device that was set up earlier in the film, which was his brother Mycroft's. And Watson leaves the room and goes after his wife, said, "Did you get a look at the man who gave this to you?" And then out of nowhere, Holmes gets up from the chair in his like little camouflage outfit and puts a question mark at the end of the end. So yeah, I thought this was a perfect ending. And frankly, I don't think the movie even needs a sequel. I thought this ending was so good. And I really do enjoy how it was like subtly built up in the first film about Moriarty. But yeah, this is a really good movie and it's a really good franchise. I know it's two films, but call it a franchise. Everyone's really good here. Um, Jude Law, who plays Watson, is really good. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. is like, he plays another one of those roles where you feel like he was meant to play it. And you can't imagine anyone else with Sherlock Holmes here, similar to Iron Man. Um, and yeah, just a really good film. Really enjoy it. So it's like kind of late, and I'm gonna go to bed. Good night. Saucy Boy out.